Alright, so we're going to talk about optimizing and also editing images. So I should probably rename this one. And as I said before, I wanted to give you just a video for this one because there were several concepts. So no, this is not required for your lecture docs. So this is just for your information, right? Hopefully it is helpful to you. So, images are an important way we experience the web, and understanding how to do basic edits and then how to optimize is an important concept. And so I thought what I'd do, and I'm going to bring up my Windows here because I was in the last video trying to remember what the built-in one editor for Windows is, and it's Paint. But anyway, so for your Project Zero, you are allowed to use things on images.google.com, and that's where I'm at right now. But what I've done, and you want to be able to do this, so let me just start over images.google.com. And then you can search for, I'm just going to start with a basic search here. But what you want to do, and this is important to understand, is that for our class, because it's non-commercial, you can use a license because you can actually modify the image by using a label for non-commercial image use. Okay, so labeled for non-commercial reuse with modification. So I think I actually, I went and I recommend you do the same, is understand what that copyright is. Okay, so is it a photo is marked to label? It means that you will be able to reuse a photo as long as you're doing so to not represent a commercial entity, which we are not in this case. So it is always important to understand if you were doing a commercial project, you could not do what we are allowed to do for this class. Okay, so now that or Google has filtered the images for that rights, now I can start looking at individual images. So first what I want you to do is find an image that you may use, because I want an image on every page, right? And so first find the images. And when you're looking at Google, oftentimes you don't want to, most of the time you don't want to take it from here, you want to actually view. And so here's the view, and in this case I could do File, Save As. So what I've done, and I recommend you do, and you're going to show some of your work here as far as links to images, so you can use whichever method, whether it be Google Drive, GitHub IO, whichever one you want. You can create a new branch, I don't care. So first I want you to download the original image itself. Okay, so I've done that just on this example. And then I want you to think about, right, so in this case, I just want to show you, right, so the original image itself, now I'm going to look at it from this perspective of what the image itself, properties, what resolution it is. There's different ways to think about resolution, but in the basic sense, what it means is how many pixels across and down. And also another way we talk about resolution is in terms of its dot per inch, right? So, but for our purposes, we're going to think more about the dimensions of width and height. Okay, because imagine that a 960 by 720 image is imagine in your head how big that is in relationship to your page. And you could play around, and I recommend you do this, is just putting these larger images in to see what they look like, because you're going to see that they're just too big and you need to cut them down. And it's important to understand cutting them down means cropping them. This is what I had you think about in lecture. Okay, and also because when you do that, you modify often, most 100%, 95% actually. There are cases where you actually don't get a smaller file size, but most of the time you will. The reason you may not is it depends on the software you're using. Okay, so in this case it's 131 kilobytes, which may not seem like a lot, but on an overall page payload, we call that, it is. And again, it just doesn't make sense. So the first thing you do is download it. And then you can use whatever software you want to just do a basic edit to it. And I'm going to use Pixlr. Okay, and I'm going to scroll down. You can, again, there's GIMP. I didn't even talk about that last time. GIMP is free. Paint.net is free. So if you don't have one, again, I had you select one and edit, but I'm just going to launch the web app. You do not have to install anything for this. I'm going to open image from my computer. Now there's a couple things here. I can see the resolution down there. I'm looking at it at a little distance, right? So one thing I could do, and I realize that there's a background around this, or there's a border color. and not necessarily a border, but there's just a frame around it. So I'm like, I don't want that frame. So the basic edit I would do here is first to do a crop, right? So that'd be a good thing to do. And then I can adjust, and it says you want to apply, and I'm like, yep. Okay, so that changes the resolution right there. Now, as you move on with web development, you're going to find other ways and other techniques to do this kind of stuff with, but this is just basic stuff, okay? Just the basic beginnings. So now what you can do is you can do other modifications if you want. You can do, there's actually filters in here. You can adjust things. You can, there's just different things you can do. But let's just say for this first step, right? Still it's too large. It's larger than I want. So now I would do an image, re-image size, and I might kick this down to something like 150. Now it's kind of in the size I'd probably want to look at it, and that's where I'd want to, when you work on project 0, is see how it looks in the page, but I'm just giving you the example. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to file, save. And now what it's going to do is, because it's been uploaded to the Pixlr and now I'm going to download it, I'm actually also going to change, in this case I could tell it the resolution if I wanted. So instead of this in the file name said the resolution, so that's another way I could do it. Okay, by 78. Now there's this is now a step you can do to optimize, right? So the quality of this. So the less quality I have, the smaller the file size. Matter of fact, you can see it as you do that. So then if I click OK here, I'm going to get a smaller resolution and a smaller file size from the quality perspective. Okay, good. So now I'm saving that there. So now what I can do is I can actually look at the difference, right? So look at this, right? So that's really interesting, right? You can see that the one that I just did is 4 kilobytes because I changed two things about that. I changed the resolution and I changed the quality. So that's, right, that's what I'm talking about, is to understand this is kind of the first level of optimizing it. And now I want you to do one more level, right? So the one more level is find some online site. So this is one that I found that it's pretty good. And I could upload the files, and what I could do here is I could upload both if I wanted, but I'm just going to upload my final one, right? And now let's see if it was able to do anything at all to download that. Let's see if it lets me download it. Okay, there we go. Right. Now in this case it just, now I need to move it, so downloaded it to my downloads directory, right? So what I could do here, show in the folder, that's the one it just did. So maybe what I'd want to do here is modify it to something like, I'm just going to add, and then what I'm going to do, because I have it on the desktop, there's a couple ways to always do these things, especially on Windows. I'm just going to do a copy. I could drag it, downloads, images, paste. So now I have 3, right? So now let's see, in this case, and again, there's no right answer here. There's just a process to understand. So now when I look at, because I can look at details, I gotta remember where that is, and let's go look at it. This one was, actually I can just look at it here. So this was 3.7, so that optimization 3.38. So you may not think that's a lot, but it is at least optimized more. Now the key is too, when you start optimizing, you start to lose quality. So what you want is you want that balance, and I know she talked about that in the lecture this week, right? Is the balance between a nice looking image and a high optimized image. So I want you to find some graphic. Okay, so let me just back up to what you need to do here. Is I want you to find an image that you might use, and I want you to go through this process. How big was it before? And then upload it again to, give us, like, you could even build, you could go in and create a branch, or go to the Learn Bootstrap branch, create a folder, move those in there, create a page, and then in that page just lay out the differences in what you went through to get from that original image to some kind of cropped, edited image, right? And then use that final step also, because I used optimization from Pixlr, and then I used it at a different site, is how small could you get that and still have that look good. So that's what you need to do for this part of this week. And it is an important part because you need to start thinking about for each page some kind of image that you would have on there. Okay, so because let's see, image and the resulting image sides, and then provide us link to the resulting images here. So I want to see, again, either provide us maybe 3 that you've done like I showed, like the original, the cropped one, right? A cropped resized one, sorry, that'd be your second one, and the third one would be an optimizer that you ran to an optimizer. Because here's the reality, is that based on what you use, that step that I showed at the end where I used that one website, you may not get anything more out of it because your software that you're using already does a good job. Okay, important topic. Hope that helps you out. I'll talk to you later.